Greetings, fam. I want to talk today about how to become an adult. Now, this may seem like an odd topic, but believe it or not, many of you still haven't grown up. Some of you are immature and are old people immature. You still act like children. And so if you want, and then you wonder why you're stuck in a certain spot in life. You're stuck because you stuck yourself there. You're stuck in your childhood. I have some big bamboo earrings that I wear, and people always comment on them when I wear them, and I say, yeah, well, I'm stuck in the 80s. And that's kind of true because the earrings are reminiscent of the 80s. But I am here. I'm in the current time, and the things I do reflect the life I live today. It's just the earrings that are 80s, and so I say that to make a little joke because people are always talking, and it's a common thing that people are stuck in certain eras, and so I say that as a joke. But the Bible, 1 Corinthians, it talks in 13:11, verse 13:11, about when I was a child, I talked as a child, I thought as a child, I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, and I'll just put in, or a woman, I put the ways of childhood behind me. A lot of you have not put your ways of childhood behind you. For instance, do you know that what we call ourselves can greatly shape what we are? The Bible also says, how a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Now, what that means is that if you think of yourself, some of you have, what do you call it? Little nicknames. And these nicknames reflect how you think of yourself. There are, I'll just pull some out of the air. On Facebook, for instance, there are a lot of people that they use their name and then they put in between their name some type of description that they want people to think. So they're like, Lizzie so sexy, De Niro. Lizzie so sexy is telling the world that she wants them to think of her as sexy. So when you get a lot of men on your page trying to have sex with you and being disrespectful, don't get upset, Lizzie. This is what you're telling them. You're telling them that I'm so sexy, so they want to find out. And it goes even further than that, but I'll get into that later about appearance and how you present yourself when you're out in public. Then you've got these guys that they give themselves these names like Mo More Dollars Johnson. Well, more dollars. And then in the profile pic, he's got a stack of bills in his hand to let people know, yeah, I'm really about this life. Okay, don't get upset when women come after you strictly for your money. This is how you've presented yourself. You're telling them I got more dollars, and what you're really saying is I got more dollars than you. And so don't be surprised when the gold diggers come with the shovels on their back. Because you're telling them, this is what I got. And people who don't have are looking to relieve you of it. The other sign of immaturity is when you actually feel the need to brag. Bragging is childlike. This is something you did in the schoolyard. I got more marbles than you. I got money for lunch. You have to eat school lunch. I got the latest gear. What's that you got on? That's a child. It's also the sign of someone who's not accustomed to having anything. Jay-Z said in one of his raps, I don't remember which one, it was an old school rap. He said, I don't mean to brag about the things that I got. but I'm used to not having a lot. I'm used to not having a lot also, but I don't talk about what I've got. And I don't have a lot now, but what I do have, the few little things that I do have, I keep it to myself. Nobody cares. People are out there trying to get what they can get. So they don't care about what you got. And the wicked ones, you talk too much, they'll help you part with it. The Bible says that as well. A man and a fool, that's what you are when you brag to the streets about what you got. A fool and his money are soon departed. So this is the other area where a lot of you need to grow up. The other thing is inability to handle your finances. And this is something I'm guilty of. Being homeless, most people, not all, but most people who are homeless, it's because at some point they didn't know how to handle their business or they didn't care to handle their business. Some people, I was in housing court not long ago because of an issue that I have with my landlord where I am deliberately, well, not anymore, but I was deliberately holding my rent because I felt that my landlord didn't provide enough heat and there were a few other issues. And so I said, well, if the only way I can get him to hear my pleas is to take him before the judge, I will. And while I was there, I actually saw a man who told the landlord's representative that he didn't give a damn about the rent. He was like, well, go ahead, take the apartment. I don't care. And he had a very arrogant attitude. The problem with the arrogant attitude is that he stated at some point about his son. Now, you have a son, but you don't care about having a roof over your head? That, to me, is a sign of immaturity. And there are a lot of immature people who are having kids, but they don't have the maturity to raise a child because they're still a child. And it doesn't even matter the age. If you're popping out kids and you can't afford to take care of them, or you don't have a job, or you don't even have a plan to get a job, guess what? You're not ready to be a parent. I cannot tell you how many times people have had kids and then they've had to rely on other people to take care of them because they found out after the child got here that they were not capable of taking care of the child. If you're homeless, the last thing you need to be is pregnant. If you're a man who doesn't have a job, the last thing you need to do is be out there making babies that you cannot take care of. That is a form of immaturity. The immature person thinks of their immediate need of fun, how they can find the next high, and they're not thinking about the consequence of that. And speaking of highs, this is another thing that is immature. If all you do all day is lay around getting high, doesn't matter what it is that you're getting high on, but all you do is get high and you don't have a job, I don't know how you're getting what you need. Well, other people are supplying you, obviously, with what you are getting high off. Then you can't be mad if the people who are supporting you consider you their bitch. They're taking care of a grown person. In effect, that's what you are. If you are letting your man and your homeboys come through and they get you high and they hit you off with a couple of dollars and they may even bring you some food, you're their bitch. You have to, if you have habits, even cigarettes, whatever it is, you have to be able to support your habit. That's what makes you an adult. When I used to smoke weed, I never had to get anybody else to give me my weed. I bought it, I rolled it, and I smoked it. Now, I would share it from time to time, but I supported my habit. I don't have that habit anymore. But I do like to eat. And it's my responsibility to keep food in my house. Fat people like food. Do not be mistaken. Anybody fat that tell you, oh, I don't really eat that much, that's a lie from the pit of hell. We eat a lot. And as that being our habits, because that's what it is, eating in and of itself is a habit. For those of you who don't know, you can break that habit and train yourself to eat a lot less. But most of us, especially if we're greedy, we don't want to stop because it's too much fun. It's enjoyable. It's just like those who smoke. That cigarette brings them a certain degree of comfort. The food, for us, brings us a certain degree of comfort. And that's okay if you can support your habit. It's not okay if the habit can kill you. And eventually anything that you do to excess can potentially kill you. But that's up to you to also know, acknowledge, and change the behavior if it's leading to your destruction. That is a part of being an adult. Being an adult also means recognizing when the ship has left the port. And what I mean by that is that there are many of you, especially older women, who still think like you did when you were young. And it doesn't help if you have kept your looks to a certain degree, but when you attempt to dress like the youth, that's when the line is crossed. Because I don't care how young you dress, people still know that you are old. And I say this in my stand-up routine. I say, older women, pull a shirt down over those jeggings, or what we used to call spandex, because nobody wants to see your sagging ass. And I see old women with these jeggings and spandex and a short top, and you can see their full figure, and it's not cute. Not only that, as I said, it doesn't make you look young. Now, yes, I'm addicted to my door knocker earrings, but I don't think that makes me look young. I just think with this big potato head, those are the earrings I need to wear, because the little earrings, you'd never notice them because of my big head. And if I take my hair down, then you really can't see them. So I like earrings that can be seen. And sometimes I switch over to just some big hoops. But most of the time I'm wearing my door knockers because, like I said, I'm stuck in the 80s when it comes to door knocker earrings. But when it comes to my attire, and I do wear jeggings and spandex, but I wear a shirt that covers all that, especially because I'm big. And a lot of big girls, okay, there's pride in being whatever size you are. And I'm not trying to shame big girls because I'm one of them, but there are certain things that are just not for us. And maturity is when you can recognize the difference. Yes, that's a nice outfit, but that's not for me. A short dress on a big girl is not cute. It ain't even sexy. If you've got cellulite and rolls and things like that, you want to keep them rolls in the oven. You don't take them out for everybody, because there's just some things that don't need to be seen. And it doesn't, and this goes back also to another area of maturity, in that the way people will react solely to your appearance. If you've got it all hanging out, don't be insulted when men disrespect you, because you are an advertisement for what it is that you want the world to see. And this is where the maturity also comes in that you have to learn how to present yourself in order to get where it is that you want to go in life. There are some people who are so put off by appearance that they don't even want to deal with you, myself included. And you're not, the Bible speaks against looking at the outer appearance, but it doesn't go deep into things like hygiene. Don't nobody want to put up with that. If you have not learned hygiene by the time you are an adult, you will not have very many friends because nobody wants to smell you. And even if you had to learn from other sources other than your household, because I grew up in the foster care system, and the last thing them people cared about was telling me how to wash as a female, how to take care of certain things around certain times of the month and other things to do. But you research it. Now with the internet, you can find out anything. Ask your friends who got their act together. Excuse me, can you tell me, what you use to keep fresh down there? A female. And most of the time they're glad to tell you because if they like you, they want to continue to hang around you. So they want you to be daisy fresh. The other thing is the ability to pay your bills. This comes back to the homeless part. If you're living in a house with no lights, why is that? Being mature means handling your business. Anything that you desire, you should be able to pay for. And if you can't, then you shouldn't have it. I cut off my cable because I looked at that bill one month. It was $200. I was like, you know what? This is something I don't need right now. And since I can't afford it, I don't want it. A lot of things that we want, we don't need. Think about that for a moment. Most of the things that people desire in life are not necessities. Why do you need more than one pair of shoes? I have more than one pair, and most of you probably have more than one pair, but we only have 2 feet. So technically, we don't need a whole bunch of shoes, and we definitely don't need a whole bunch of expensive shoes. And greater than that, if we can't afford it, then why do we feel the need to buy it? So you got them Louboutins, but your lights is off. That don't even go together. Or your phone is off. I see people with $800 phones and the phone is on minutes. Why is that? You don't have a plan because your credit is shot. So your phone is on minutes, but you got a nice fancy phone. So, I'm saying this because I have encountered people throughout my life, even up to the present day, that have not grown up. I think that once you're out of your teens, it's time to start making life decisions because you are entering adulthood, whether you like it or not. Some people expect somebody to take care of them their entire life. I know men who look for women to take care of them. I know women who look for men to take care of them. The funny thing is there's some men that tell their women to call them daddy. And I never could quite figure that out. To me, that was like some borderline fruity and incestual type scenario. But then I got it because these men were footing all the bills. They even had a song back in the day, another hip hop song where the girl would say, my money, my clothes, my hair, my nails, oh. So the man is paying for all this for you. Well, he is your daddy. And I get it. Some people, some of you, grew up without that father figure. And so you go into the world always seeking daddy. The entertainer Cher once said, if you take their money, you take their crap. And I love her to this day for just that, for that one statement, because she was trying to school people, the women, on how to be independent. It's so true. If you got somebody taking care of you, well, then you pretty much have to put up with whatever they put out. And some of it is not pleasant. Sometimes, and the Bible speaks of this, it says that it's better to sleep in the corner of a roof top than to be with a contemptuous, I don't remember the exact word, but it meant to be with someone who's a headache, because you got a lot of headaches out there. You got some people control freaks. So not only they taking care of you, but they controlling everything. You want to go take a walk. Where you going? What time you be back? You don't feel like cooking one night. Hey, where my dinner? Bring my slippers. Hand me the remote. And then you've got some grown men who have not matured. I know grown men, old men, who sit at home all day and play video games. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong per se with video games, but if that's what you do all day, every day, that's a problem. Especially when you consider yourself an adult. Adults have responsibilities. If you have children, those are your responsibilities. They need to come before your boys. They need to come before your weed. They need to come before your video games. They need to come sometimes even before you. You may want that weed and there's no food in the house. What you gonna choose? Food for your kids or weed for you? That should be a no-brainer. And women, you too. You may want to go on that shopping spree, but your kids need clothes. So what you gonna choose? I've seen women look good and their kids look terrible. That ain't right. Your kids got to come before you. That's all part of being an adult. Now, in terms of your behavior, there are certain things that when we're children, they can be overlooked. But as we grow older, we need to check ourselves. One of them is fighting and even arguing to that degree. There is no reason two old grown people need to be somewhere fighting, physical fighting, having a fight. And sometimes the fight don't stop there. It leads to you making a decision that can change your entire life. Because some people don't know how to control their anger. And if you know that you are one of these people, then you need to start training yourself from this very moment to contain your anger, because you don't want to go somewhere to the point of no return. There are people in prison today who kill somebody over a silly argument, and now when they think about it, they're like, man, why didn't I just walk away? Why didn't I just let that go? Well, you didn't. So grown people, please recognize that there's nothing worth fighting about. Walk away. So what, you look like a punk? You know you're not a punk. So what, you look soft? You know you're not soft. But at least you were able to walk away and live another day. Because sometimes it don't turn out in your favor. Some people, they assume, I got this. And they assume they're going to come out the victor. But that don't always have to be the way. You can't judge a person's skills by how they look. Some people pick on little people because they figure, oh, I could beat him up, or I can beat her up. But some little people carry knives and guns and are afraid. A scared person will kill you because they don't want you to kill them. So they're already ready to get you first so they can get away. So I'm saying people, and even to the point, like I said, of an argument. Don't even go there because you don't know if the other person is able to handle their anger. You might say that one thing that set them off. I remember back in the day, the biggest thing that people would want to fight over is you talked about my mother. You said my mother? What? But guess what? They don't know your mama. And even if they do, and even if your mama is whatever they said, your mama's a hoe. Maybe she is. But so what? Who the hell know what their mama is? And not only that, you gonna beat them up over that? I knew people who used to fight every time they saw each other. They had an argument, there was a fight. Come on, that's how you want to live? And some of you live in households where you're arguing all the time and you have children there. Something got to go because those kids grow up watching you and they begin to think that that's the solution. Somebody say something I don't like, I'm going to argue, I'm going to fight. All right? Let them come at me wrong. It's going to go down. That's not the way they should be thinking. At some point, you're going to have to make a decision. Either this arguing ass man or woman got to go, or I have to put my children in an environment where they're not growing up around this. A person once told me, and they had a hell of a nerve, but we had some words, and then they said, you know what? I don't like arguing with you because when I do, then I take that mood to my children. Well, number one, that's an excuse because you don't have to take that mood to your children. You choose to take the mood to your children because you can't get over it. And that's a form of immaturity. When you can't let something go, you need to grow the hell up. Because it's always going to be something. I don't care, the most holy, most saved, most Christian person in the world is always going to have some type of demonic attack, either in the form of someone else or in the form of something happening within your household. Whatever it is, you're going to be tested. And if you choose to hold things in and let it fester, then you have not fully matured. Because maturity means, okay, today this happened, I dealt with it, what's next? Because it's always going to be a what's next. As long as we live, there's always going to be something else. Sometimes it's something good and sometimes it's something bad. How you handle it determines your level of maturity. I may have left some things out. Well, this I don't want to leave out. Choices. We all make choices. When you know that you're an adult is when you make the choice that is right for you. If you choose your mate based on appearance, don't be surprised if they have nothing substantial to offer. Because many people who grew up sliding by on their looks grew up thinking that's all they needed in life. I have said in other videos, there's nothing worse than a beautiful face slapped on an empty head. Choices. Some of you choose to be a badass. You want people to acknowledge you and respect you, and you think you can make them give you the homage that you feel you deserve by being a badass. Walking around with a mean grill all the time, always something nasty to say. I even had a man tell me one day, he said, I'm going to make you respect me. And I laughed because you can't make anybody do anything. They'll either do it out of fear and resent you, or they'll do it for the time being while plotting on ways to take you down, to put you in your place, to let you know, no, you're not a badass. I'm the badass. And then when two badasses meet up, it never turns out well. So and this goes back to presentation as well. If you go around in life thinking your looks are your ticket, One day you're going to wake up and you're not going to look like that anymore. It's just a fact. We age, our looks change, and the life we live sometimes can change our looks. There are people who are on methamphetamines and they look like hell. Crackheads, they'll all the time. You see the most beautiful girl in the class, when she gets strung out on crack, she's not the most beautiful girl. And the graveyards are full of people who thought they were badasses. So you want to check that, what it is that you aim for. You have to aim high. Those of you who dream about riches and you want certain things, well, then set your sail in the direction of those things that you desire. And sometimes it's not just education, because there are a lot of educated fools. What's the point of going to college if all you want to do is party all the time and your grades are failing? There are companies that want to see your grades these days. They don't just want to hire you because you got a degree after 10 years. They want to know what your GPA, your grade point average is, because they want to know that they're getting the best person for the job. And in today's economy, when you've got so many people who are qualified for the same job, companies can sit back and choose the cream of the crop. So why take someone who was not at the top of the class when you've got someone who was at the top of the class applying for the same job? That's a no-brainer. They automatically assume that you are what you present to them. So if they look at your, and this is not just in the workplace. Like I said, some of you choose your mates on looks. Don't be surprised when that's all they got going for them. All right, I'm going to wind down here because I could go on this subject all day. But let me just simply say this. A lot of you need to grow up. Joan Rivers used to use that in her routine. She would talk to the crowd and then she'd say, "Oh, grow up." If they tried to, come some kind of way because of her jokes, she'd tell them to grow up, in effect, to not be so sensitive. And I'm saying to you, all of the things that I've just told you, think about it. Because, sure, God gives us grace, but he also gives us wisdom. And he gives us discernment, the ability to take apart things and understand them and make wise choices. You have to make wise choices in life, but you can only do this when you've decided to grow up. If you've decided that for whatever reason, oh, I had a bad childhood, your past is just that, your past. You don't have to say, I had a horrible childhood, but at some point I decided, you know what? This is not going to determine who I am. Some of you use a bad childhood as an excuse to stay in your childhood because you're looking for the things you missed. I truly believe Michael Jackson was one of those people. He didn't have a childhood. And so as an adult, he wanted to still be a child. He was a man stuck in a child's body. That's why he needed Bubbles and his Neverland and all this Peter Pan-ish. And, he was attempting to create a childhood. The problem with that is, Mike, you're not a kid anymore. So leave them kids alone. He wanted to play with kids, but kids know you ain't a kid. So people, grow up. If you consider yourself an adult, act like an adult. I think I pretty much exhausted this. It was something I needed to say, and I've said it. So I'm going to end with prayer like I always do. Lord, there's so many adults out here who can't get it together because they're still stuck in the cycle of childhood. Their mind tells them that they need to be taken care of. They need to be cared for like a child. And they don't realize that other adults are not sympathetic to this because the world sees you as you are. If you're not a child, it's going to be very hard to convince people that this is what you are. So I'm asking you, Lord, to enter the minds and the hearts of those who are still struggling with maturity and help them, especially those who are now trying to raise children to maturity, to understand that in order to do this, they themselves must grow up, Lord. I ask that you help people who have issues in their lives that are preventing their growth emotionally and physically and spiritually. Issues like addiction, issues like habits, and things that they find hard to let go. Help them to understand why they need to let it go and help them to be delivered from these things that are holding them back. People, places, or things. Lord, I ask your covering on this word today that it'll touch somebody. And I ask and I thank you for the blessings upon my life. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.